Good morning, everyone. Hope you're all having a wonderful day today. Today, we're going to be taking a look at the hyped Promethean LP-1 red dot. Now, back when this originally came out last year, I want to say there was quite a bit of hype around it. Lots of people recommending it to me, saying that I should pick one up and do a review on it, just because of some of the outlandish claims that the marketing department was making about the Promethean LP-1. Unfortunately, those claims were never really true, despite what you may have seen from other YouTubers on the platform making glowing reviews of the Promethean LP-1. Today we're going to be getting into the issues, and there's quite a bit of them, so this might be a bit of a longer video. But before we get into that, I have three people that I need to thank. Number one is going to be Callaway Ballistics, for sending out a lot of the ammo that you saw in this video, 300 Blackout 556, as well as some cool stuff coming up as well. On top of that, also Optics Planet. They've sent me some gear to review for free, which is a big help to the channel, and I have a discount code for them. I think it's Focus, and it saves you 7% if you use that at Optics Planet. Not an affiliate link or affiliate code, so that is purely just to save you money. And the third is going to be Hunters Point Shooting Complex in Humboldt, South Dakota, for letting me come in, film, and shoot, and use their beautiful range to film these videos. Now, full disclosure on the Promethean LP-1 is that I paid my own money for it. I didn't have any affiliation with them whatsoever when I purchased it. I spent my own money in December of 2022, and I think it arrived in May. Now, that's not really a big issue. I bought it on pre-order. It eventually ended up taking up a couple months longer, but I bought it knowing that it would be 2 to 3 months, ended up being 5 months. Not a big deal, but just know that I paid my own money for it. It was not sent out to me, and I had no contact with them before I started the review process, but we'll get into that a little bit later on. Now, getting into the basics on the Promethean LP-1, this is, as you can probably tell, a very big windowed red dot, which is hot. I know a lot of people really like them in terms of size and weight. As you can tell, it is a bit of a chunky boy, coming in at 12.5 ounces, which is not the heaviest red dot on the market. I think that's still going to be the Sig Romeo 8T, because this is 7075 and titanium versus 7075 and 6061 on the hood. Now, the material selection on the LP-1 is good. Again, the base body is 7075, very good choice. 6061 on the hood, which is, they call it a crumple shield, which it didn't crumple. That was not the issue whatsoever, but it is going to be a little bit lighter than titanium. Again, 12.5 ounces. Pretty darn heavy for a red dot. Not the heaviest red dot out there, but if you like big red dots, it's going to be comparable to EOTech's, the Vortex AMG, or some of the other big red dots on the market, plus or minus an ounce or two. Now, getting into the battery type, battery life, and some of the settings that it does come with, this is using a side-loaded CR123A battery, which is a good battery. You get a ton of juice with that, and it's also a good way to mount it as well. That way there you don't have any issues during recoil, especially on heavier calibers. Now, their claimed battery life is 150,000 hours with the 2 MOA dot at setting 5. Now, you have 10 different illumination settings on your reticle. This is using a 2 MOA dot and a 65 MOA outer circle, like a lot of other red dots on the market. Very, very common in that regard. Now, this unit has their Aura Wake technology, which the initial unit that I had did not. When I bought the first LP-1 in 2022, they didn't yet have the Aura Wake technology available, so I did not get one of those. However, after I broke and sent in my first red dot, the one that they upgraded me to, which we'll get into that a little bit later on as well, was the model with the Aura Wake technology. Now, Aura Wake technology is a partial auto on, auto off. So what it will do is, after 5 minutes of no motion whatsoever, it will turn off the outer circle, not the 2 MOA dot. The 2 MOA dot will always stay on, so that is just constant on no matter what, and it will turn off the 65 MOA outer circle after, again, 5 minutes. Now, that will definitely help to conserve your battery life. Again, they're rating it at 150,000 hours at setting 5. You have 10 brightness settings. However, keep in mind that the bottom 3 settings are night vision, so setting 5 is really only setting 2 in the night vision or in the daylight settings. Not particularly bright. You'll probably have it on a much higher brightness setting, anywhere from 7 to 9, depending on your environment. So that 150,000 hours, probably not 150,000 hours, probably closer to 50 to 60,000 hours, maybe, depending on your battery and, again, your environmentals as well. Still a very long time, but just think you're going to be switching out your battery every 5 years or so. Battery life is very good, but it doesn't have a complete auto on, auto off technology like a lot of other red dots do. It's a partial system that only turns off the outer circle. Now, in terms of controlling the brightness, you have a up arrow and a down arrow. Very easy, very intuitive. If you hold the up arrow for 5 seconds, it will turn the optic off, so it is completely off, and that will, of course, save your battery life. Touch either button to get it back on again, so on and so forth. Or if you just leave it sitting there for long periods of time, again, that 65 MOA outer circle will automatically turn off. Now, getting into the emitter that's in this current unit, it is very good. The dot looks very good. The outer circle looks very good. It's very EOTech donut of death, but of course not quite as fuzzy depending on what sort of circumstances you're using it. It does look very good. Now, I don't really have an astigmatism. My eyes are very good. So to my eyes, the dot looks very good. It has a very good refresh rate throughout the entire range of brightness, which is very good. The initial unit that I had a defective emitter and had a random brightness or a random emitter refresh rate. So depending on your brightness level, you could go up and it would get terrible. You could go down and it would get better. And it seemed to just kind of be random depending on what brightness setting you were on, which wasn't all that great and a bit of an issue. Now, getting into the mount on the LP-1, it is using a QD style. Now, this is actually set up pretty good. It is going to add to the cost and be a lot more complicated than just a, hex nut on a large locking lever. That's going to be a little bit better in my opinion, but for a QD, it is set up pretty good. So, of course, you have a lock that holds the QD lever in place so it doesn't accidentally move. You have to depress that, then you can get the lever to move. In terms of adjustment, it uses a pretty slick adjustment as well. You have a little detent and a notched bolt head on the other side. So each, like 1/16 of a turn, it locks down into a notch so that it can't accidentally adjust one way or the other. And you can very finely tune the amount of torque or tension it takes to get it onto your upper receiver, in theory allowing you to have the best zero retention possible and getting it, again, as tight as you feel comfortable. Now, in terms of the crossbolt itself, it's also quite substantially sized, which is good. On top of that, it is squared off, so it will act like a recoil lug to increase the contact surface between the mount and the upper receiver or whatever you happen to be mounting it to, in theory providing a hard stop during recoil, and again, a little bit better zero holding abilities. Now, it doesn't have any other recoil lugs on the bottom integrated into the mount. It just has the cross bolt, which also doubles as a recoil lug. I don't think you need more. I've seen some optics with 3 or 4 recoil lugs. You don't really need that. 2 is probably good, 3 is probably a little bit overkill, and 4 is almost certainly never needed. In terms of adjusting your zero, you have a recessed elevation and windage dial. They are in half MOA increments. They have a very large opening on them to adjust them with a flathead screwdriver, edge of a case, knife, anything you have laying around. Pretty easy to adjust. The clicks feel very good, and again, they're in half MOA increments, so no complaints there. Now, as far as the body and hood design goes, again, the material choice, good. 70-75 on the body is very good strength to weight ratio, especially when compared with 60-61. 60-61 on the hood to save a little bit of weight and, in theory, probably a little bit of cost as well. Now, the really only issue I have with the hood itself is that it's not really mounted to the body quite substantially enough, in my opinion. So it does have 6 little cross bolts that hold it to the body, in theory taking the impact from a sharp impact to the side or the top of the optic, and then taking that away from the glass and putting it into the body of the optic. It's doing so via 6 very small cross bolts. Again, to the optic that it's copying its homework from, the SIG Romeo 8T, you still have 6 cross bolts or 6 bolts holding the shroud to the body, but they are much more substantial, and on top of that, the hood is titanium versus 60-61, and this is going to work a little bit better, especially when we talk about durability a little bit later on. Now, last thing to talk about before we get into the problems that I've had with both of my LP1s is actually the raw glass quality. And the glass quality looks very good. It's very natural. There's very little tint to it whatsoever. Distortion around the edges, almost none. There is a tiny bit of warping if you move it around in front of your eyes, but you are looking through a couple pieces of thick glass. So there is a little bit of warping there, not much magnification to the naked eye. Again, the glass quality looks good. The one thing that I will say is that I have not tested this under night vision. I know some other people have, so I would take their word for its night vision performance, as I can't really comment on that. Now, getting into the problems that I've had with both of my LP1s, the major problem is that they both broke during the double drop test. So the second unit that I have here broke the back pane of the glass, completely shattered it. It's about 60% usable still, and we'll get into the performance of the drop a little bit later on. The first unit cracked the front pane of the glass during the double drop test. Not quite as severe, but we had a bigger point of impact shift on the first unit than we did with the second unit, which is here now. The first unit also had a emitter defect issue, which was problematic. It wasn't the worst thing in the world, but it's always bad when you buy a new $400 red dot, you wait 5 months for it, and then the emitter refresh rate is kind of bad. So to keep it very quick and simple on the major issues that I had with both of my LP1s, the first LP1 had a defective emitter from the factory. On top of that, it also broke during the double drop test and had a pretty large point of impact shift of about 6 MOA. Then of course on the second LP1, the back pane of glass nearly completely shattered, though it did seem to retain 0 quite a bit better. Now, to hedge off some of the people in the comment section about the double drop test, here is a list of the optics that have passed the double drop test with flying colors, meaning they did not break or shatter and did not have a noticeable shift in 0. Now here is a list of all of the optics that have passed the double drop test with a shift in 0, meaning that they didn't break or the glass didn't shatter, but they did have a noticeable point of impact shift. And here are the 3 optics, the LP1 being the third, that completely broke, shattered, or just it died during the double drop test. So there are quite a few cheaper optics in the LP1 that have done quite a bit better than it. So compare and contrast the actual performance of the LP1 versus some of the most outlandish marketing claims I've ever seen when it comes to an optic, and you'll see that there is quite a big gap between what you think you're paying for and what you actually get at the end of the day. And I don't really have a problem with aggressive marketing as long as it's not completely outlandish or just objectively wrong. This is not the most duty grade optic on the planet. The Sig Romeo U8T is without a question. Now this is a little bit cheaper. It's about 30% cheaper, half the performance, 70% of the cost. So you be the judge there. And again, if they were marketing it as a good general purpose optic, a really fast red dot, a competition dot, big window, good glass quality, good feature set for the most part, there are a lot of good qualities about the red dot, but it just doesn't match with the outlandish claims that they're making. So that's 2 of the issues out of the way. We got marketing and we got the actual just durability of the optic. Now we need to talk about their warranty, social media versus their actual back end. Now, as I mentioned, the original LP1 that I had a emitter refresh rate issue where it would change depending on what brightness level you were at. Now, to be clear, that was that way from the factory before I fired a round, before I even did a drop test on the optics. That was as it came from the factory with that issue. Now, when I posted that video to social media, their social media guy was very quick to reach out, comment down below, be very, upfront, hey, this isn't a common issue, we'll get you taken care of, so on and so forth, which that is the front-facing social media side, which is good. You want to take care of your customers. Now, on the back end of that, actually talking to their customer service team, this could be just an error in translation, or they're not really talking to each other, or the social media guy is just trying to be as kind and nice as possible to make sure that everybody's happy, and then their customer service is, playing a bit more hardball, so to speak, when it comes to warranty. And I have the email here handy, and I quote, "As a heads up, we lack the margins and liquidity of Vortex, so a no questions asked warranty isn't something that we usually offer for our buyers. In this case, we have you covered," and then they just tell me to keep them updated with the progress of the LP-1. Now, again, their front-facing, their social media team was very fast to be like, we will get you taken care of, no questions asked, and their back-end team, their actual customer service, was more like, maybe this time, buddy. Now, keep this in mind that they knew who I was. For you, would they be as kind or as accepting? Would they offer the same sort of thing that apparently they don't always offer? I don't know, and maybe you shouldn't pay $400 to find out. Now, that could totally be an issue where the social media team is not talking to the customer service team, or the customer service team has a different set of rules that the social media team is not aware of. The social media team's just trying to be as nice and kind as front-facing as possible, and then the social media team or the customer service team kind of just has to deal with the problem. And that always sucks as someone who's worked in retail. Anytime I had to follow up on somebody else's problem when they made a claim that we weren't supposed to do or something, and then I had to deal with the customer, that always sucks. So I am very empathetic to that sort of person, and I'm not blaming the people involved. This is much more of a company issue of people not being told to do the right things by the company leaders, not the actual individuals. I'm sure the social media person is great. I'm sure the customer service guy is great. I don't blame either of those people whatsoever. Totally a company structural issue, not having the same sort of standard operating procedures for whatever situation that they're dealing with. Now, getting back to lead and steel, it's a $400 optic that's not really that durable, and it doesn't have that great of a warranty. All of those things don't really mesh that well. Now, I also run a small company. Lead and Steel is kind of a smaller company. They do offer a lot of really cool products on their website, a lot of good value products as well, but with the Promethean LP-1, in my personal opinion, currently it's not. I don't want to see the company go away. I want to see them improve their products, and I'm fine with giving them advice on different things, how they could improve their products, and various other things that they're doing. I do want to see them improve in all of these areas, not just go away. And as I said, they do appear to sell a lot of cool stuff on their website, and they have a lot of other products that I haven't tested and can't comment on. And as a small company, I do get it. It does suck to have these little issues, and you generally are running a little bit of a tighter ship, but you still have to stand behind your product. For instance, I run a small company as well. My margins are incredibly tight, anywhere from 8 to 13%, depending on the product that I'm selling. And if I ever have an issue, which the biggest issue that I always have is the upper just being under gas for a certain customer setup. So whatever it is, I still have to fix that issue, even with incredibly tight margins and not making that much money per product. And a bigger company like Lead and Steel, which is much bigger than me, should definitely stand behind their products. I get it's not always fun to do so, but you do have to build up your customer base, stand behind your product so that people can actually buy it and be comfortable spending, hundreds, if not thousands of dollars on your stuff. Now, the last issue that I had was actually during a phone call with the CEO of Lead and Steel. Now, having phone calls from CEOs isn't really that big of a deal. I've talked to Marshall from Primary Arms and several others. Usually it goes very well. It's just talking about product issues, improving the product, so on and so forth. However, at one point during the conversation, now the guy seemed very nice, very competent, very good at his job. He, defended his product a little bit, also knew that they wanted to improve it in certain ways. All good things for the most part. However, at one point in the conversation, he offered to compensate me for the time and energy that I put into the review. And that's a bit of an issue, because if he's offering me compensation, a very small YouTube channel with 43,000 subscribers at this point, that's most certainly not the first time that he's offered compensation to a YouTuber for review. Now, I told him flat out no twice. The only time I will ever accept something in a review is product or ammunition. That is all that I do unless I'm in an employee context, where I'm actually a physically employee of the company, therefore I get paid for doing work for the company, right? So as a reviewer, I don't ever accept money. I can accept product or ammo, and that's as far as the reviews ever go. Now, to the CEO of Lead and Steel, I would say never offer compensation to a YouTuber for a review in any capacity, again, unless it's just product or ammo, something very simple like that. Straight out money is very, very difficult to get around morally, and almost certainly does throw some bias in there, especially when it's in the middle of the review process, when that YouTuber is having some issues with your product already. It's just always going to be a bad look. Now, one last minor gripe that I have that I might as well throw in here at the end of the video, and it's just a bad marketing strategy. So basically, during the big pre-order phase where everybody is waiting from, 3 to 5 months to get their product, Lead & Steel was going around to trade shows, giving away products. They were giving away stuff on Instagram to generate some hype for their product, which is a fine marketing strategy, but it's never a great idea. You have paying customers waiting for product while you're giving away stuff for free at shows and on Instagram, stuff like that. Not great when you have hundreds or thousands of paying customers at home. Now, other companies have done this as well, and they always get called out for it. Like, I think Geisley was doing this during like their last Black Friday sale. So they had customers waiting 10 to 12 to 16 weeks for product, and Bill was running around giving away stuff for free, and everybody at home who had paid $1,000, $2,000 for their product was like, hey, where's mine that I actually paid for, right? Just not a great idea. I get that it keeps the ball rolling in terms of hype, and you get to, keep making content, and you make some people very happy that they got a free product versus, the people that actually paid for it and are waiting for it. Now, with all of that out of the way, again, I want Lead & Steel to improve. I want them to come out with cool new products that work great. I want them to tighten up some of their marketing, warranty, social media services. All of those should mesh really well together to be a well-oiled machine. Combine that with good products at a good price, and I'm a very happy reviewer. So I hope that they do all of those things. I don't want them to go away. I think as a company, they seem to be coming out with some very cool products, and I hope that they continue to do so. Now, with all that out of the way, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed. Let me know what you guys think of the video in the comments down below. And with all of that out of the way, I'll see you in the next one. Peace.